The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. Now, today's guest is one of the country's best known carp farmers. To date, Heather Fisheries has produced over 150 fish over 50 pounds, but has it also broken the British record? Mark Simmonds, we're live. Welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Welcome to you as well, Simon. I heard about it in 2018 from Simon at Dinton, and he texted me one morning and he said, well done on the British record. So I contacted him. So what are you talking about? He said there was a Simmos over the British record. And I said, well, where did it come from? He said, well, it's all been kept rather quiet, but he said somewhere in the Chertsey area. So I phoned Mozza and said, what do you know? And for once, Mozza was speechless. He didn't know anything. And it went everywhere. It was just like wildfire, spread everywhere. And everyone was in denial. It's been dead for 2 years and everything else. So whether it did ever get to that weight and break the British record, because after they've all said that, everyone that was fishing for it said, it's dead, it's dead. Year after year, same story. You know that, Simon. Year after year, it was dead. And then it actually officially did die this year, and we saw a photograph of it dead.
Right.
Yeah. So whether it did or whether it didn't, or whether it was another fish in that area that's been caught and people kept it quiet, there are one or two syndicates that've got our fish in, that have had our fish, and you just hear absolutely zero from them. I know there's an Essex water with a couple of 60s in, and I know there's a couple of Colne Valley waters as well where you just get absolutely no feedback.
That must be really frustrating for you at times.
It is, but there you go. I mean, you know, once they leave our control, it's up to people, you know. I mean, Tim on the Alawite, I mean, what a fantastic job he's done at starting those waters up and running those waters on fairly small lakes. And in a 4-acre one at Murstone there, what they call Blackwater, I mean, Tim's got 2 fish that are ounces short of 60. You know, that's incredible in a 4-acre lake. In
an area where you wouldn't necessarily expect to see.
Well, all the fish have always grown well on the Isle of Wight. I think it's perhaps a degree or 2 warmer over there, perhaps. But you know, he's had some lovely fish out of the small one, Monk's Pool, and I mean they've done 50s. And they're the original Fisher's Pond fish. So they were the first batch of fish that were done that was spawned in 94 and went to Tim as C4s in 97. So those fish would be, how old now? 27, 28 years old?
Fairly young fish.
Still fairly young fish. People say, oh, Simmos, they you know, you get 10 years out of them. That's about it. But that's not the case at all, you know.
We're looking at a picture now of Terry Hearn with the Chertsey Fish. So was this a fish that until you heard about this in 2018? I mean, what was the history of it?
I think it's always the case that the fish was not stocked but flooded in from next door, and we put a lot of carp. I think it was something like a couple of 100 C4s into the ski lake next door. And the story always was that it flooded over from the ski lake. But that is very much what a lot of the early Fisher's Pond fish looked like.
And not a shape or a style of fish that you would necessarily associate. I mean, I think that was probably one of Terry's favourite looking fish as well. But so it's probably gone from one lake to the other and then be kept quiet for quite a few years. Do you know what the growth rate was like of it?
No, I don't. It would have been a C4 that would have been in 97 or 98. We would have stocked the ski lake, so it's a ski lake fish. But a lot of the early Fisher's Pond fish looked like that. They were very long fish. They weren't all short and fat and round. That trait came later on.
Yeah,
I would have said towards the sort of the early 2000s.
Yeah, we'll get into that later on the show, because it's an unfair, you know, misconception that people have about you as well with your fish, because I think that fish was a lot more typical of you know, of a typical Simmonds fish, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Right, we're at the part of the show anyway where we always ask for a nice gift. And have you brought the gift with you, Mark?
I didn't know what to bring you guys. I thought about bringing you something jokish or something like that. And, I didn't really have a clue what to bring you. So in the end, I decided to donate you a fish. So
I have to say, that might possibly be the best gift the show has ever received.
Well, we were saying this before, because obviously we do know a little bit about this. It sounds natural, and it's funny. Like when you came into the building, we were asking people to guess what you would donate, and no one actually guessed a fish, did they?
No, everyone thought it would be something jokey. I'm sure they did. I was going to bring some livestock or something like that. You could have bought you a box of nice chickens or something like that. But
just unleash them in the studio.
Unleash them in the studio and caused havoc.
That would have been all right, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but no. It's a lovely fish. It's got a little bit of history.
Tell us a story, first of all.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to throw the picture up for everyone because it is a stunning, stunning fish.
Oh, look, there you are, Bean.
Bean's he's actually in the studio with us now, actually. So,
what a fish. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's a lovely fish.
So we're looking at a fully scaled fish there.
Yeah.
What sort of size is it, Mark?
It's about 24. It's a 6 summer fish. And one of the lads who's worked with me for a very long time now, Graham Rawlins, we call him the Toad. Graham's worked with me for a long, long time. And a friend of his had some lakes at Petersfield. So Graham said to me, would you mind if I grew some fish at Petersfield and then sold them back to you, your fish, you control selling them, I'm only putting your fish in there. So I said, no, I haven't got a problem with that, Toad. And anyway, we harvested his place last year, and he said, right, Simo, he said, you can have the 20s up to 22 and nothing any bigger. So we're away weighing these fish, and he's not really keeping that much of an eye on the scales. So the first fully scaled came up at 23, bit more. I called out to Toad, who was writing down, 21 pound, Toad. Right. Anyway, and then the next one came up. It's even bigger, maybe 24 and a half. And that's it there. And I said, 21 pound, Toad. Right, okay. Anyway, then to really wind Toad up at a later stage, I took these fish back, put them on a holding farm in a pond. And to really wind Toad up, because we like winding him up, don't we, Bean? Got to be wound up now and again, old Toad. Got to keep at him. And
sounds familiar.
I've took these 2 fish out the holding pond, and I put on Facebook, what should I do with these 2 fish? Should I sell them now or should I grow them? And about 30 people immediately came online and said, we'll buy them now, Simo. We want to buy these fish. And lots of people said, I wouldn't part with them till they're 30 or whatever. So I said, all right, I'm going to grow them on. So immediately, next minute, Toad's on the phone. You stole my bloody fish. I said, oh, come on, Toad. Have a sense of humour. It was only a couple of pounds between friends, you know what I mean? I said, I paid you loads of money for them anyway, you know. And he said, you stole them. You stole my fish. So on Facebook, there it is. Put the photograph of these fish up. And then Toad's got a comment underneath. You stole them, Simo. So they've always been known as the stolen toads ever since.
What a great name. Are they similar to that, Mark, or is this this is pretty distinct fish?
That is the stolen toad, the big stolen toad.
Right. And
the other one is maybe 1.5 pounds short of that.
Yeah.
And obviously I will bring you the biggest one, which hopefully is going to be that one. So I just
can't believe the scales on it.
I'm going to donate that to whichever water you want to put them into. And James has just put his head round the door and said that he spoke to Matt and you'd like to put into Devil's Lane. And I'd like to see it going to Devil's Lane because Devil's Lane a few years ago was one of the Korda waters that didn't really have a lot in it. And they stocked some C4s down there from us 2 or 3 times now.
So we've got some pictures of some Devil's Lane fish, actually. Let's put these up.
They've grown so well, and there's a lot of scaly fish down there. And I'd just like to see the stolen toad go there. But there's one stipulation. It's always got to be called the stolen toad. So if you guys ever get a photo from Devil's Lane of a fish and it turns out to be the stolen toad, you've got to put out with stolen toad. I can't let him off the hook.
We can't call it the podcast fish.
No, stolen toad.
What a great gift that is.
Well, you're more than welcome, because
some other pictures from Devil's Lane as well.
I mean, we're so happy with our relationship with you guys here at Korda, and you've been so good to support us with our fish over the years. And we've absolutely loved working with you and Simon and
James and Matt.
James and Matt and Richie. We've worked with them right from the word go. When we first took fish up, the first lot of fish we stocked were core cuts. And the fish in there have done amazing. But just
look at these fish that we're looking at now from Devil's Lane, Mark. I mean,
look how dark he's gone.
That's not a dustbin lid shaped fish, is it? It's gone super dark and quite long fish as well.
That's a thing that we've specifically over the last few years we've worked towards, and that's getting the fish a lot longer, and not necessarily so scaly, but a longer fish with a nice high shoulder on it. And we've done a pretty good job, I would say, and people appreciate them now a little bit more. We did have some bad years. I
just want to, sorry, sir. I just want to ask, because I'm not a massive carp angler myself, Mark. But even in my limited experience, when I heard people talk about Simmos carps, they used to cringe. Everyone would just pull a face and like Simmos. Oh no, you don't want. Where did that come from?
I was,
Sorry, have I stolen your question?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would have said that it would have come from the fish that John at Fisher's Pond spawned between maybe from 98 to 2004. And he had a thing about wanting to... John's not an angler, and that's what everyone's got to appreciate. He isn't an angler, he's a farmer, and more than anything else he was interested in getting the best possible weight that he could out of the pond. And to his idea, these short fat fish that grew very well were the things that were going to produce the most weight and the most productivity out the pond. And I guess towards the sort of getting towards the late 90s and early 2000s, a lot of it was the inbreeding, because you kept breeding from the same fish.
Right. Do you know where those fish originally came from then, Mark?
Well, they were Fisher's Pond fish that, because he kept breeding from them, they gradually became more and more inbred. And because he liked that shaped fish, short fish, round fish, was John's specific fish that he liked, they got more and more kept looking more and more that way.
And is that why, I mean, is there a bit of a deformity to those fish?
They're not deformed. It's the swim bladder. If you look at all of what they call, they were horrible, they were ribby.
Put a picture up, actually. Sorry, Mark. We got a picture of me, on my Instagram at Manor the other week. There's a round fish that I caught there. If you can find that, could you put it up on the screen?
God, you don't want much, do you?
No, well, the round fish, a lot of the French fish have got it, and it's where the swim bladder doesn't sit in the centre of the body. So the swim bladder always sits to one side, and it's the same side. Let me get it right, Ben. Is it left or the right hand side? Right hand side. And where the swim bladder doesn't sit central in the body because the fish isn't long enough, it pushes the rib out, and that's why they call them ribs. You look on a lot of the French fish. So are we looking at a sort of that type of fish there, Mark? You are looking at those. That would have been a late 90s, early 2000 fish, and a lot of the fish in that period looked like that, and they were horrible. I would call that a character fish. Yeah, but a lot of people call them character
that's
fish.
Because you caught it, mate.
I tell you what, actually trying to hold those is so once they've got that kind of shape, are they all going to end up like that? Yeah, they won't change that shape. They won't change that shape. But if you look, what I'm saying, Simon, is you look at the shape of the fish. It's short and it's round. And that's what caused the ribs, simply because the fish were that shape. And as soon as you got away from that shape, things improved. As soon as John got away from breeding the round fish and put the commons
which he had from a separate source when he originally started Fisher's Pond as an angling water. When he got those commons and spawned them with the mirrors, then things started improving. And then some of the fish that came out of that were scaly, and he bred the scalies to the scalies, and then he got some bluefish that turned up out of that, and he bred some of those back to commons or mirrors or whatever he did. Because I never got involved in any of the hatchery side of it. All I was a worker. I used to go out for nothing and help him out. But we were very, very close from the late 80s right the way through up until probably about 2012 when things probably started going a little bit wrong. But we had some great times, and I love the old fella to death, and probably in a way I miss him. You know, we were such great mates for such a long time, me and P, and you know, it's him that's really all these big fish that are about. It's him that spawned them, and it was me that delivered them. And
so having your name associated with those, didn't you say as well that those type of fish, they've been distributed by other people now as well?
No, not really. No, the fish that at that time when John was doing fish that perhaps looked a little bit like that, and not all of them were like that, but everyone, if they had, you would get maybe 5 out of a batch of 50 that were short, fat with a rib or whatever.
But your name is always synonymous with...
Oh, absolutely, because those 5 fish look, if you like, different, and people hated them, but they never stopped growing. It never stopped them growing. There's some huge ribby fish around.
What did they grow up to then?
Well, £50 for sure. Yeah. There's plenty of £50 ribby fish that actually should be called Fisher's Pond fish, but they're not. They're called Simmos.
I know.
Because I'm the person who went out there, talked to the owners of the waters and distributed them. So, you know, that's really where it is. So they are all spawned by John. All the 50s that you're talking about are actually Fisher's Pond fish that were spawned, selected by me to grow on at C3 or C4 stage and distributed by me. So, in fact... Old Pete created poor old John, he created a millstone around my neck, really. They've never known as Fisher's Pond wrong'uns. They're always called Simmo wrong'uns.
Just getting back to Embryo as well. So you've been working with Embryo since they started this whole project? Since Danny started it all? Yeah, and,
you know, I was so grateful to get a phone call. It would have been around about 2015, and I think Richie Seed down at... Carpathia. I mean, he had a long chat with Danny about the fish, and then I got the phone call, and we were over the moon to be working with you, and we've had a lot of fun working with you, and you know, it's worth. I think it's worked to everyone's gain, really, and we always pick the right fish. I mean, one day James came down, and you were supposed to be getting a load of 19 to 21s, and James came down to the holding farm. He said, right, James, there's the pond. Pick, is it 50 or 100 B? 20s. It might have been 50, it might have been 120s. And James spent the whole day picking out the fish that he wanted from a great pile of 20s. And they were supposed to be 19 to 21. And there's fish in there, they probably averaged 24. And, you know, he just couldn't believe it. He said, what? They're the same money as the 19 to 21s. I said, yeah, pick which ones you want.
You're that confident in the quality of everything that you're producing. There isn't a good batch. They're all
they're different. The oldest batch of fish that we've actually produced ourselves now, without Fisher's Pond, are coming up for 6 years old now, and they're already they're growing exactly the same rate as the Fisher's Pond fish would, but they're spawned in the wild, rather than relying on going into a hatchery and picking 1 female and 3 males, and the fish ending up looking very much like each other. What we've in fact done is pick the very best fish and put them into one of our out sites where they spawn prolifically each year. And then some years we get 20,000, some years we get 500,000 to pick from. and we have great fun picking those fish. They're all Fisher's Pond fish. They're all from John's original fish. The only thing that changed is that we've actually picked the ones that we like to put back to grow on and to spawn from.
And what's the sort of criteria? What are you looking for?
Long, with a nice high shoulder, some scales, but not necessarily heavily scaled. I mean, we've got a lot of fullies, but not everyone wants a pond full of fullies, Simon. I mean, they look terrible when they get caught regularly, don't they? Because they lose so many scales, and they can look tatty. But we like the ones with some big scales. Yeah, you know, the really big apple slice scales on, especially on the shoulder. We've always found that the ones that grow really well.
Why do you think that is? We see those in Norton Disney as well. With those, I mean,
there's 3 or 4 big scales right on the shoulder, like a sergeant's stripes. You know, and I don't know why they always do well, but they always do grow well. Those fish do, and in fact, the biggest fish that we found have always been the males. Certainly those 2 big ones that Tim's got on the Alawite, which are coming up to 60. They've probably done 60 now. He doesn't tell me anymore because he's gone secret squirrel on it. So he'll probably phone up and hang me in a minute over this. But Rascal and Dave is the name of the 2 fish. And they're, like you say, not quite like that with the big scales, but they've both got very few scales, and they're big, long males. And if you get a good male, a lot of people that have got our big fish, a lot of the 50s actually turn out to be males, and the males will grow bigger than the females. It's strange.
Do you think the males live longer as well? Because they're not putting themselves quite through that cycle that a female would do?
Yeah, I think possibly. Yeah. I mean, probably Dave and Rascal could. I wouldn't tell her unless I'm a records with me. I wouldn't be able to tell you and go back through it. But they would be only probably 17, you know. And we've got 50s actually that are 12 years old coming out at 50. 12 years old. Wow. You know, that one from that we had a new 50 from. Going to think of the name of the fella in a minute. Of course I know. Jason Davis down at West Stowe, and he stocked it in November 14 as a C4, and that's just done 50.
Why so quickly? Why is it growing to that size so fast?
Sorry,
it's a good water.
Is that the one there?
Yes, that's the one. And you do get freak waters where they grow exceptionally well. But there was other fish that were stocked alongside that fish that are sort of mid-30s. So you do get 1 or 2 that always grow better than the others. I'll say this now, and it'll come on to something else a little bit later. But Kevin Nash asked me to select some really the very best fish and grow them on for him. And we selected 6 or 7 amazing looking fish for him. And we put them in the pond and we called them No Nashy 1 to 6. Or they eventually ended up as No Nashy. They were Kev's fish. I had them for him. That was it. We had a big fallout and he no longer had them. I wouldn't sell them to him. And we called them No Nash 1 to 6.
Right.
And the amazing thing was those fish grew. We picked them for him the year before and we grew them, and all those fish were 4 pound bigger than their brothers and sisters. You know, they were really some amazing looking fish. So we had quite a bit of fun putting them up as No Nash number 1 and No Nash number 2, you know.
Actually, that fish back up that we saw on the screen just then, it's got like a saddleback shape. I know James Turner asked you as well. Good question as well. You know, when you see
that dip,
it's got that dent halfway up its back there, hasn't it?
The commons are the same, Simon. Yeah. You know, we've got some huge commons around the country, lots of 40 pound. In fact, they've done 50, and those commons are nearly all got that slight dip where you come off the head and you've got that slight dip, and they do grow exceedingly well. In fact, people always say, if you got any commons, can we have some double backs? We call them double backs.
anticipating that they're going to do.
Because they want to do well. I mean, we sold 4 commons to. I call him Bunter, but it's not very fair. He's a very, very good customer of ours, Steve Hayes, and he put some in Manor a few years back. And they've all done
Essex Manor.
Yeah, Essex Manor.
Yeah.
And they've all done 40 now, and most of those has got that slight dip. And the same with Mitch. He's put some, which is going to be a fantastic water, no doubt about that. He's got the Sanctuary in Essex, which is going to be an incredible water. That fish there is a Leverett's fish, and again, just shot on. That fish, his brothers and sisters are 30s.
How big is that? I mean, that's
gone
really
50,
deep.
I'll tell you in a sec.
52. No, I don't think when
50,
Pete caught
52.5.
it. I think it's. Is that when Pete caught it? 52.
52.5.
Yeah, that's the biggest it's been then. But that would have been stocked in, I think, 2008.
Right.
2007, 2008. There's not another fish in that water apart from Simmos. And it's got over 70 30s, 6 40s, and the 50. And small, only 4 acres.
So but can you put that down to the quality of the water? Or
it was a new lake.
Right.
So if you're stocking new lakes, there's no doubt about it. If you're stocking a brand new lake, the fish do exceptionally well those first few years.
Why do you think that?
I'm not sure, to be honest, Simon. It's just the way they do. There's no build-up of silt or anything like that.
I know Simon Scott mentioned, I think it was on a podcast last year, about the Cotswold Water Park, and the water clarity was almost that good that there were no nutrients. Lakes sometimes needed to build up a little bit before they started to really sort of prosper. But
there's so many good waters on that Cotswold Water Park. I mean, we sold quite a few fish many years ago in the early days to Tom Banks, who owned Savay. And Tom put some around the Cotswold Water Park, and you don't hear about those anymore because Tom's a little bit secret squirrel these days. But what a lovely bloke. The first time I went to meet Tom, you know, everyone knows about Tom's sort of wealth, if you like. And, you know, we didn't expect him to turn up in a Range Rover with a private number plate. He's turned up in an old Bedford van, you know.
Yeah.
But lovely bloke. I
think, I hope he doesn't mind me talking about it. I know that he won't be listening to the podcast, but I probably wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for knowing, you know, Tom and fishing his waters over the years.
Yeah.
And,
but I think he's got a couple of our fish that have probably done 50 down there. And there's certainly other waters on the Cotswold Water Park where Tom probably had a hand in putting a few fish in over the years.
Yeah. And
the fish have done really, really well down there.
It's just been a little bit of a slow burner down there, but like you say, now it seems to be, you know, all the waters around there seem to be...
They seem to be doing well, but without doubt, the best water on the Cotswold Water Park is going to be Carpathia. It's going to be the Grenvilles of the south, if you like.
Well, that's great. It's 5 miles from where I live.
Yeah,
so
try and get a ticket though, Simon.
You need to put a word in for me.
Yeah, I need to put a word in for you. Yeah, but I mean,
that one's from Carpathia.
Yeah, I think that's a late record fish that's done about 42.
42.5.
Yeah, he was caught recently.
Yeah.
But there's some of the fully scaleds that are in there, and the heavily scaleds at £30 and upwards. I mean, one of the best looking fish we put in there was a fish that we named after Richie's dad called Jimmy. And it had a big round scale on it, a very unusual scale. And that sort of went in about 21. Richie put it out as a big a normal size C6. And he picked it out because of this big scale. And it's a fully scaled. And fish called Jimmy, and I think that's done 35 or 36 now.
It's exciting.
So it is exciting because there's so many of those fish. In fact, that fish went in because we put fish in Carpathia. We put them in at C3, C4, C5, and a handful of C6s. And funnily enough, the biggest fish that's going to be in Carpathia is a fish that went in as a C3, and it's just overtook all the others. It's not that record fish. I think Richie was saying to me, I had a chat with him the other night, and he was saying he thinks there's 3 other 40s including this one that went in as a C3 that's just flown past the others, that he's waiting for them to get caught this autumn, and they're going to be bigger than the. Is
he feeding those fish? I mean, is he getting a
little
lot of
bit of food? He's not getting enough anglers fishing it, Simon. I mean, he doesn't get a lot of anglers fish it.
Still quite a small syndicate, that one.
It's quite a small syndicate on quite a large bit of water. You know, it's like Tim on the Isle of Wight. What a wonderful chap, right? He's got a water there without doubt some of the biggest, because there's 50s as well as the 260s. He's got like a 30-man syndicate that, knowing Tim, probably pay about 500 quid a year. You know, and he's got a water there that could produce an income of 40 or 50 grand a year. And he's ticking along at 12 or 15 grand or whatever he is getting from it, just because it's those members have always been with him. He's not interested in the money from it. All he's interested in is having a nice syndicate to catch those fish that, through good fishery management, little bit of feeding, stocking the right fish, have gone to that size. And there's no doubt in the back of my mind, with the age of those two fish, I think they could quite easily go on and make 70.
Wow.
They've got the length to do it. If
you were advising a fishery owner on how you would want your anglers to bait a lake, I mean, what would you be encouraging them to do? You know, type of bait and quantity of bait.
Well, not to put too much in the way of particles in. I mean, pellet and boilies. I mean, I think that's a good boilie. Is it important? I think it really is. And pellet, really. I mean, that's what fish eat. That's what the proper diet is, you know, for growing carp is pellet. And I think most people, where these big fish are, they either have an absolute mountain of bait going in by a lot of anglers, or if that's not happening, then the fishery owners or fishery managers, bailiffs are feeding them. And that's going on. But I don't think that, I think the days of fish like the leanies going on 30, 40 years, that's not going to happen anymore. There was no pressure on those fish. Those fish weren't fished for. And I think a carp these days, if it goes up to sort of, I think probably you've got to be looking at 20 to 25 years rather than...
So since Heather Fisheries was formed, a lot of your fish have sort of reached their life cycle then, do you think? Probably
in the early days. But I think now, I think it's going to be a totally different thing, Simon. With the size of with the fish that we're doing now, spawning them naturally in the wild, you're only getting the very best ones survive, the strongest survive. And those strongest fish, once they've been graded for shape and size and then grown on, I think that's going to possibly make a difference.
It's funny, isn't it? This is going off fishing a little bit, but there was a program with Michael Johnson, the Olympic athlete, about 10 years ago. I know this, but it's kind of related to the same thing. He was looking at why black athletes were the fastest sprinters in the world, and he found out. So when the
good job my carp don't grow. Yeah.
So when the Africans were coming over to the States, the journey was so harsh that most of them died, but the ones that survived
were the strongest.
And he looked back over his ancestry roots and found that his roots were back to that to that original,
African,
to that bloodline. Yeah. So do you find the same thing with fish as well?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of different strains out there, and I think that I don't see why anyone would want to. I don't think you can import anymore. I think they've stopped it altogether now, because at one time you could get Croatians and Israelis in, and I think that's been more or less stopped now for disease risks by CFAS. And I don't think there would be any need why anyone would want to breed a Croatian and end up getting a short round fish very similar to the old Simmos. I don't know, because a lot of the Croatians and the Israelis look like that. They're back to the old shape because they're basically table fish.
Yeah.
And that's what the original Fisher's Pond fish were, table fish. Because the first batch of fish that John ever did in Fisher's Pond, big number, after it was shut down as a fishery, were actually carp that he was growing for a supermarket.
And how did that get on?
Well, he couldn't sell them, and I managed to find one or two people that bought huge quantities of them and put them out, and that was the first, we can sell them to the angling trade. Because in those days, going back in the early 90s, there wasn't any carp. There wasn't. I mean, I set Broadlands up, and you just never saw any carp about.
Yeah.
They just weren't about. There was no carp farmers, or the ones that were doing it were either importing. It was sort of at the tail end of the imports, and a lot of illegal fish were coming in.
When did all that sort of stop, really?
What, the illegal imports?
I mean, the illegal imports and, legal imports
I would
as well.
I would say it's ground to a halt now, but I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, because you could actually bring them, Humberside Fisheries, Ken Ryder, he was bringing them in perfectly legally from Croatia at the time, and of course, then you had the Fenland fish. They were coming in from, I'm not sure whether it was the Fenland fish from Israel or which way round it was, but they were absolutely lethal. They killed fish wherever they went, the Fenland fish.
Why was that?
Carrying disease. Yeah, I mean, I came across a very unfortunate chap. He was in a wheelchair, and up in the Midlands, Stoke-on-Trent. I'm going to catch his name in a minute. I'm hopeless with names. And he was in a wheelchair after an accident, and he bought a lake, and his brother was going to run it for him. Craig Stokes is the fella's name, and I'll think of the name of the fisher in a minute. And Craig had an awful start. I mean, he bought some fish from Fenland, put them in, opened it up for 2 weeks, and he put lots of 20s, 30s in. They started dying. So he shut. Fenland agreed to replace some, put them in, died again. He shut. Put some English fish in, not ours. I wouldn't supply him. I said, I'm not putting my fish anywhere near those imported fish. Put them in, they died. So in the end, he got in touch with CFAS. They had carp edema disease, which is like they call it sleepy disease, KHV and sleepy disease up there. And they literally took what remaining carp was out, limed it, left it for a year, and stocked it with airfish, nothing but airfish. He listened, he took advice, because he'd been through the mill, I mean, he just destroyed him, I mean, there he is in a wheelchair trying to make a success of this fishery, to make a living for him and his brother. And lovely bloke, absolutely lovely bloke. Well, until he's had a drink, then he can be a pain.
Like quite a few of us.
Well, like all of us.
Yeah.
But no, Craig stocked airfish, and the fishery has gone from strength to strength. It's never looked back. And now you can hardly get a day ticket on it. In fact, he only does 48-hour tickets on it now. And I will think of the name before the end of the show.
Is that what you'd normally do, lime a lake, if it got to that sort of point? Is that
it's
what
the only one I know that's ever got to that point?
Right,
Simon.
Is it?
I mean, we've stocked waters that have had KHV. The following year after KHV, put other fish in, and they've never, although the fish that survived the KHV are in there, carriers, it's never affected the new fish. And then you've got other waters that 3 years down the line, it'll come back again. But you can never be 100% sure whether it's going to come back or not.
Are you weary of like koi carp in lakes generally, or does that not necessarily make too much of a difference?
It depends where the koi's come from. I mean, I'm always wary about people with garden ponds and things like that. I mean, I know, not going to mention the fishery, but I know a fishery that went and got a load of coloured carp out of a zoo. And they had them health checked, in the sense they went and got health checked for parasites internally, externally, which is all you have to do. No one, the CFAS can't afford to, or anybody can't afford to run these trials to see whether they've got KHV in them. And very often the KHV, all you're going to see is, whether they've actually come across it somewhere along their lives. But those ornamental fish that were stocked as stocked legally, just wiped the place out. And that's never had KHV since.
Hasn't
so
it?
Those fish have gone in.
It's got rid of it.
It seems to have shrugged it off, but I think probably they've never stocked a fish since anyway.
Right. Just getting back to male-female fish as well. I mean, you know,
we'll have to start talking about Mr. Nash again.
Oh, do you? All right, okay.
Probably.
Well, I've come across this on some waters where the balance between males and females has not been right, and that's caused problems on fisheries. Is that something that you would find as well? Yeah,
without a doubt. Certainly in the early days, everyone wanted the females, the bigger end of the fish. So we only want if you're selling the C4s, we want the top 10%. Well, they never got the top 10% because we would always keep those to grow on for big fish for ourselves. But they would, you know, if we were selling then at C5, every stage which we went through in the early stages, it was done more on size than it was done on looks. So in fact, what we were actually doing, we're creating a very big percentage of our fish were females. And if suddenly it's a new water and you're stocking those females, yeah, they might last 2 years with hardly any males. And they would go from £12 to £25 and then die. And that was happening in the early days through lack of knowledge on our behalf and lack of knowledge on people that were stocking waters. And now, I think now, a lot of the waters that we're stocking, people don't tend to stock just our fish. A lot of waters these days are stocked with maybe 2 or 3 different strains of fish, and you're getting a mix of males and females from different strains.
What would you like, a 50-50 percentage then, ideally?
Well, when the fish are spawning, especially if the season is a long spawning season or a late spawning season, you know, it sometimes takes 6 or 7 males to chase a female around. You must have seen it. It's never one-on-one. It's always one female and a great pack of males chasing it. Now, those males have got to stimulate that female to spawn, and then they've got to move on to the next female. So if you've got a lake full of females and you've only got a few males, quite a lot of those females might not be stimulated to spawn.
Right.
Now, sometimes they shed the eggs,
right,
and then other times they'll reabsorb them.
Right.
And it's when, I think, probably when they reabsorb them for several years, then you get maybe a bacterial infection and something like that. And you get 1 or 2 that will float up at spawning where they can't, they take a certain amount of bacteria gets going in their gut, and they swell up. And they just float around on the surface or float around tail up with their tail. You must have seen it that dying at spawning time.
And they're just carrying too much spawn and
not enough males. Don't see much of it these days, Simon. To be honest, it was the early days, but we tend to make sure that we keep some males. Well, certainly in the ponds where we're growing the big fish, we actually have a percentage of males that we might not even sell, that are just males solely there to make sure that the good big girls spawn out. The ponds where we're not selecting the fish to grow on and we're not getting our fry from to grow on, we could just put some tail end males in there and leave them in and take them out every year and put them back.
Right.
You know, and then that way we know that they're gonna get the big fish. You know, where the stolen toad is, for instance. There's a lot of tail end males in there that we just take out and put back every year, and all they're there for is to stimulate the big girls to spawn. I mean, we're going to take probably 250 20s out of there, with some up into low 30s this year, and you know, without those males being there, those girls would have a problem to perhaps spawn.
Going back to age as well, ideally, I mean, would you like to introduce a fish to a water early on rather than keep it, you know?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the best size to stock waters are C3s and C4s, and I think that the next best thing to do is to not stock fish and fish for them the first year after stocking them. I mean,
Right.
It's to me, it's very important for them to settle down. And we've created quite a few fisheries that have just solely got our fish in them. And people have done it the way that I've suggested them to do it.
It's difficult for the owners, isn't it? I guess.
I've turned job after job away, Simon, where I will not stock fish or sell the fish to a water because what they're doing is wrong. And I'll say, look, you don't need to do it this way. You want to do it that way. And I would never, ever do anything apart from tell someone to do it the way that I would do it myself. And we've turned, Beanie will tell you, we've turned job after job away where we say, no, I don't want to stop that. Why? Because you're not listening to me. Go and get the fish from somewhere else. And then a couple of years later or 6 months later, you hear it's gone tits up, you know?
What about introducing young fish to very old fish? I mean, is there a way of being able to stock a water that, you know, keeps everything as healthy as possible?
Yeah, I think I think if you're going to stock a water where there's a lot of old fish, I think you're better off stocking maybe a very small quantity each year, rather than go and say, right, okay, we're down to 50% of fish what we used to have. We're going to put 50% of fish back in and go and put, say, you used to have 200 fish, you've got 100. They're all old fish, the 100 you've got left. And then you go and bang 100 C4s on their head. You know, I think you'd be better off introducing those 100 C4s over the next 10 years.
So, I mean, what do you think's going on there? So is it you're stressing the old fish out and they haven't got the energy to...
Yeah, you know, these are... When you're putting fish in like that, these young fish, they're robust, they're hungry, and they're like little machines. They want to go out and all they want to do is eat and, you know, just generally stress the bigger fish up.
Yeah.
And I think without doubt, the favourite way that we like to stock fish is C3s and C4s.
Right.
Without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, Linear, for instance, they've stocked nearly 90% of 100%. I don't think I've ever sold Linear a bigger fish than £10. Up until this year, we're selling them a few 20s in the next few weeks. But I've never sold Linear anything apart from C3s and C4s.
How often are they replenishing stock? Every year.
Yeah. A
few fish in each lake, or?
Yeah, a few fish in each lake. What they've tended to do, they've got a very nice water up there called Graham's Water, and it's quite a big gravel pit, maybe 15 acres, something like that. And they put C3s in that numerous years. They put them in, feed them, and then they'll maybe have a couple of fish-ins and remove the fish. And over the years, now when they go up and do it, they're catching 20s, 30s, upper 30s, because it's a big water. They don't net it. They actually remove them by rod and line. So they remove those fish, and because it's every year C3's going in, there's C4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s in there now, and they can get some cracking fish out to stop their waters. That's what they've done. But I mean, Brasenose 1, Brasenose 2, all C4s.
Was it?
That was before the fish kill after the floods, and it was also before the floods and after the floods. It was C4s.
Wow, and I think we got one of those. £50 fish now. Another thing you said that was interesting was you would like to see more fish in a lake to encourage growths.
Yeah, I mean, people say, oh, well, you need, you know, I've had it out with my syndicate at Newbury, mine and Kev's White's place, Newbury Carp Tonic, that everyone thinks you need lots of space where these fish need to grow big. But very often, you know, you look at some of the waters that have got a huge head of fish and big fish these days. It's more done on angler's bait. And if you're sitting on a water where you're going to be fishing for 2 or 3 nights and you likely to only get 1 or 2 bites, you don't put any bait in. So the fish aren't getting fed. So it's not as important as what people think it is to have 5 fish an acre. You know, sometimes it's better to have more fish with anglers putting more bait in. And look, you know, prime example, Todber Manor. What a fishery that is. You know, I helped John with some netting down there last year. And every time we pulled a net, Beanie will tell you, we get 30s in a net, Bean. You know, and they've all gone in as C4s. And the place is absolutely stacked out with fish 30, 32, 34, 35. They haven't been put in at that size. They've grown to that size. You know, he's got 5, 6 lakes down there, all happen the same, all very, very busy day ticket lakes, very well managed, lots of anglers, lots of bait. I'm not saying that Todd are probably going to do a 50, because it probably won't, but places like Linear, as you know, it's done a 50.
Put a 50 up there, Ted, the Brasenose one.
It's not going to stop there either. Those fish are going to go on and make 60. I'm sure they are.
So you wouldn't worry about biomass in there and too many and being too many in there?
Not at all.
I hear that a lot, Mark, where you know, fish start going belly up in some lakes and they say, oh, there's too many big fish in to the acreage. We're looking at a 50-pounder now from is that the late record from Brasenose now, one of your fish there, Mark?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a big framed fish, isn't it?
It's a big frame fish, lightly scaled, big frame fish.
Yeah.
And surprisingly enough, a lot of people now are saying, we want to go back to the old style fish, the old style Simmos that haven't got so many scales on. And a lot of people like the quarter linears where they got scales from the tail up to about a quarter or half linears. And they don't want, a lot of people perhaps don't want the scalies, they want the less scaled fish. But the ones, like I say, we really like are the ones with the big scales on the shoulder.
I mean, I like those ones, especially when they darken off a little bit as well. But, you know, like lakes like, you know, the Carpathia Lake, where there are only a handful of fish in there. Would you say that a water like that was an ideal habitat for, you know, breeding bigger fish? Do you think that's why those venues done that, or do you think otherwise?
I don't know what size fish are in the Carpathia.
Well, I mean, the Carpathia Lake was all those Yateley lakes. They only had a handful of fish in each lake.
Yeah, they only had a handful of fish, and look how old they were, Simon. You know, they only started growing when anglers started feeding them. I mean, this is it, isn't it? You know, people go on about the strains of carp and it made carp. It did. They were the first carp to be about, but they rarely reached any weights. I mean, look at the modern carp. You know, look at you know, the amount of 50s that we've got in the country, 40s, 30s. You know, they should be talking about Simmos, not leanies, and everyone's going to shoot me now, of course, leanies. But, you know, they've left them way behind. But that's modern carp fishing. Modern carp with modern carp day fishermen has made these fish big. And I don't think they're going to stop.
Well,
you know,
I've got to throw that back up there because that's a good example.
I think Bailey would like this. It was that the 1, 2, 3.
That's 1, 2, 4.
1, 2, 4.
Yeah. Granville's fish, yeah.
That's it.
I mean,
that went in as a C3.
Oh wow. That's a phenomenal fish.
It's similar to that Brasenose one, isn't it? It's just coloured up
more. They were the same year class.
Were they?
Yeah, same year class.
Any excuse to give Bailey a shout out as well.
Yeah. No, they were the same. A lot of the Granville's fish were the same ilk as what the Brasenose fish are, around about the same time.
Do you like the way he runs it on there? I mean, it's well fed by the owner as well on there. A lot of baits going in. A
lot of baits going in. A lot of the anglers fishing are putting a lot of bait in. And
that's the 1, 2, 3, isn't it? That one.
You know, incredible looking fish.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely incredible looking fish.
Yeah.
And they've also
swimming pigs.
Yeah, no, they've also got some scaly fish in there that have gone up to about 40, and that's where they've stopped. But incredible looking scaly fish. Andy Parker's fish down at Handicap, lovely looking fish, and actually people talk about those. I think these days the scaly ones more than what they do about our monsters. But he's crossed them, I think. And I think he's now producing his own fish up at Granville's. I mean, we haven't took any fish up for donkey's years, but I think the original fish, I mean, he had 500. I think the original stock was 1,000 fish, and I think he's tried to maintain that at about 1,000 fish.
You know, like you say, but it's a decent sized water as well, isn't it?
70 acres.
70 odd acres.
Yeah. But he does feed them, and
you see a record coming from there.
No. I think the fish have got perhaps as big as they're going to get in there. I'd like to see, if I had to say hand on heart where I would really love to see a record coming from, that'd be Alawite.
Well, you said you think that's got a chance as well.
I think those two fish on the Alawite, yeah, those two big males.
Just by the speed that they're growing
at? The speed that they've grown at. They haven't checked. They've gone on each year, dunk, 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 dunk. And funnily enough, I don't know which way around it is. I think Rascal's bigger than Dave. And they've always maintained, since they've been 20s, they've always maintained about that same weight between them. If Rascal's 30, Dave was 28. And if, Rascal's 40, then Dave was 28 and a half, 38 and a half. And more than anything else, I would love to see that happen for Tim. Because, what he's created on the Isle of Wight for Isle of Wight carp fishermen.
Amazing.
I actually call him the governor of the Isle of Wight, because what he's done for Isle of Wight carp fishing is amazing. And, it was so sad when he lost Rookley. Because everyone loved Rookley.
Yeah.
And he had a little tackle shop there.
I didn't realise that was the same guy. Right.
Yeah. No, he's a smashing bloke, and no one that I know probably deserves it more than Tim.
That would blow it out of the water a bit, wouldn't it? If it come from the Isle of Wight after you think Southern Waters, and
you probably never hear of it. But I know that both of them have done 59 now, and it's all he's fed up with people phoning him. That's why he's keeping it under wraps. But you hear little
until they listen to this podcast.
We've told everyone.
He's gonna murder me. I'm seeing him in the next few weeks. He's after some C3s from me.
Is he?
He'll be chuffed to see you then.
Yeah.
Is there a sort of a growth cycle that you would expect to see from a fish? It's not a gradual climb, is it? They climb and then plateau and then...
those have gone on steady, rather than race on. Carpathia is another one. What that could do. It's going to blow farriers out of the water. Farriers is going to be past tense. When Carpathia, the amount of 30s that are going to be in Carpathia at the end of this year, and he, this time next year he could have 15 40s in it.
Yeah, that sounds like an exciting.
It's such an exciting project, and also Mitch's place. What a place that's going to be. I think it'll leave the rise standing. And don't forget, we got fish in the rise that have done 55. I think there's three maybe fish in the rise. We got some lovely commons coming on in the new one, the Sanctuary. And Mitch is just about to open another new one, the one next door to the Sanctuary. And he put C3s in there from us, and they were a really, really good batch. And they've been in there 2 years or 3 years, been? 2 years. And they've gone from like £6 to £20, some of them. And that's going to be another fantastic water. But he's feeding it.
Yeah. In these waters, like you say, they've all got one. They've got this like modern fishery management in common, haven't they? They're being ran a certain way. We're not sticking a handful of fish into a lake anymore. They're putting quantities of fish in and making sure that they're well fed.
Yeah, but
as
a
well.
lot of anglers still probably like that harder.
Yeah.
Now you see, I got involved in onto something else. I got involved in a syndicate, and taking a water on. And it's only happened in the last 18 months, and I would have never thought that I would have got involved in something like that. Two chaps, Kevin Rolls and Kevin White, leased this beautiful water at Newbury. One lake's 20 acres and the other lake's 7 acres. And they split up. And Kev White was left with Newbury. And I had put some fish in there on a basis of being paid later for them. And he asked me whether if he paid me later, then he could have some more fish. And I said, yeah, you could have some more fish. It's not a problem. I know Kev White, he's ran some waters up in the Cotswold Water Park and in that end of Evesham way. I'm trying to, was it Rookley?
Yeah, no. Rookley. It's up
Rooksbury.
Evesham, wasn't it?
Evesham and Evesham Vale. And he had a couple of fishes up there, and he had a bad doing over by the owner up there and the otters and whatever. And then him and Kev Rolls got a water in Hereford, and I can't think of the name of it now. But this water up at Newbury, the first time I stocked it, I thought, wow, just it's the first time I saw you get to see somewhere. First time I saw Carpathia. Funny enough, the first time I saw the rise, it doesn't look anything. It's a great big water on top of a hill that's a water reservoir. It's round. But the first time I saw it, I said to Mitch, these fish are going to get massive in here, Mitch. And they've gone and done that. And you just take one look at Newbury.
So what is it? What
I don't know, actually. It's just a look at a place, And anyway, it came to pass that Kev Rolls and Kev White split up. And I actually went to Kev White and said, Kev, do you want a new partner? And he said, what are you bringing to the table? I said, a shitload of fish. You're in. And we've never got down to sorting any paperwork out as such. We've just had a gentleman's agreement. And I had visions of 600 fish in the 20-acre lake. And right from the word go, I was determined to put 600 fish in there. And we put 400 in. We put 300 C3s, 6-7 pound, put 70 C4s and some 30s. Only 3 or 4 30s in there. And the way those fish have grown, amazing. Some of the biggest C3s that we put in at 7 pound are 17 pounds. And that's since February this year. I mean, they've been fed as well. But I would say the average size would be 12.5, 13 pound being. And from 6 and 7 pound. But just the general shape of how they've changed. And everyone, all the syndicates saying, please don't put any more in, Simmos. We beg you not to put any more in. We don't want any more. All thinking that 400 fish is going to be loads. And they've been catching them fairly regular. Most people catch, and some people catch 15 in a weekend. But they don't want any more fish. Now, I'd have rather put another 200 C3s in. And it was always agreed we were going to put another 200 C3s in. Kev's in the middle. Poor old Kev White. His son would like to take 100 out. I want to put 200 in.
Yeah.
And Kev's saying, Simmos, couldn't we compromise and only put 100 in? And now we've decided not to put any in. But whether it's the right thing or not, I don't know. But what we're going to do, we're going to stick it at 400. So if we lose 20, we lose a few to maybe an otter or something like that, or 1 or 2 diet spawning. We're going to replace those. So we're going to keep that at a steady 400, which is 20 fish an acre. And I think probably those fish will do, well, I know they'll do very, very well in there. I mean, the C3s, the C5s are going to be, the best ones are going to be 22, 23 pound at C5.
Yeah.
And I mean, in 5 years' time, it'll be full of 30s. You could have a water there that's got 100 30s in it.
Mark, I just want to ask you, I apologise if it's a simple question. Where you said you put them in there, what was it, £7? And they're at February this year. Yeah. And they've grown to what, 13, 14?
17, the best ones.
So they've over doubled in size. Is that
more than that?
Is that a quick rate of growth?
Yeah, it's far better than what we expected.
Yeah, it sounds rapid to me.
It's far better than what we expected it to be.
Yeah. What did you expect it to be, sorry?
We thought £10, didn't we, Bean? We said if the C3s had done £10 by October, we'd be pleased.
So you were mega pleased then?
Mega pleased. I mean, we've got, we put 300 in, and out those 300, I would say probably 200 of them are between, well, £10 up to 17. I think there's 5 or 6 done £15 plus, and you can already see the shooters. They've actually gone past the C4s. Wow. So you put C4s in. They've obviously spawned for the first time, and they've gone in and they've dropped back and they've gone back up. And these little pigs have just gone charging straight by them. It's amazing.
I've seen C4, C5s do £8 a year.
Yeah.
Which is,
but they will do that, which is about, they might have been 1 or 2 of the bigger C3s that might have been £8. But certainly, I think there's been 5 different ones between 15 and 17.
So what do the syndicate want on there? They want bigger fish or not?
They don't want any more fish.
So they want them all to just grow big now.
Just
and leave
grow
it at that.
big.
Yeah.
And they've got to realise that if there's not enough members putting enough bait in, We're going to increase the amount of members slightly. We're going to look at 100 members on the 27 acres.
How much bait would you like to see going in there, kind of on a weekly basis in Keita? Is that a difficult
Certainly,
question?
No, I don't think so. I think 25 kilos a day.
A day, yeah.
Yeah, in trout, the 400 fish would be a supplementary food. I mean, we don't feed. You hear these fish farmers, some of them, blowing fish up. They're feeding 4 and 5% of body weight. We very rarely, in the middle of summer, we might get to 1.5%. So our fish aren't in stock ponds. They're not in half-acre, 1 acre stock ponds. They're in 10, 12-acre lakes, proper natural lakes, where they were spawned in. And they go back into these lakes that are absolutely full of food, right? And we supplement their food. They learn how to be carp. That, I think, is an important part. You've got a fish farm fish and you grow it to, say, £28. Never seen any natural food. I mean, it's just been in a pond. And you move those fish out and they go back down. You move our fish out, different.
Yeah.
And it is different, you know. I mean, Cooperman and Richie Seed have bought a lot of 20s from us over the years, picked the very best fish because they wanted the best of the crop, if you like. And they picked 20s and they've gone on straight away from the time that they've gone in. I mean, Saddleback's been in 5 years, you know, and it's just done 48.5 from 21.
Blimey.
You know, and then there's the other one. I'm trying to think of the name of it now. One that hadn't appeared for 2 years and suddenly it pops up this year at 46. You know, and that was put in the year after Saddleback. You know, I mean, Alan's got some lovely waters there, but you keep your eye on mine and Kev White's Carpathia. We got a great bunch of syndicate lads up there, and we got 4 or 5 people that help us that are bailiffs on there. You got Carly and Fitz, and Carly's wonderful. She'll go up there, leave bloody Fitz at home, and she'll be up there strimming or painting fences or whatever. She's a lovely girl, and Fitz and Tom and Martin, and obviously Kev. I mean, he's upset this week. He's as miserable as buggery because he ain't got any petrol to get up there. So he's supposed to actually be meeting us at the lake today. But he says, I haven't got any petrol to get up, and he's as miserable as buggery at the moment because he can't get up to the lakes up there. But it's very exciting, and you know, I mean, I didn't think that I would get the enjoyment that I have out of it. It's a retirement pot, really.
And like you say, you didn't go straight in thinking that you were going to fully manage it. You were supplying fish initially, and then and then the opportunity came up for me to become a partner. And to be honest, it's worked well for it's been great. I mean, me and Beanie absolutely love it. Beanie spends all his time up there. He just goes up there, and you know. Mark, ghost carp. We've seen a very big ghosty in Broom Lake, which didn't come from your stocking, and it just goes to show that fish have got, you know, they can come from different origins and still get to pretty impressive sizes.
Yeah, well, the actual ghosty that was in Broom, and I've been and stocked some lovely fish in Broom that have gone on really, really well and made £30 plus, and very impressed with it when I saw it for the first time when we first stocked it, and the actual ghosty in Broom has got some of our Fisher's Pond blood in it, and it came from Medbury Lane originally. Now, we heard that it was stocked in some fry that were removed from Medbury Lane that were put straight into the lake at Broom, and they came on from that fish. But now you're saying that you've heard that it was actually come from somebody who took it home, put it in a pond and grew it and then took it back, which is something we wouldn't obviously agree with, because you just don't know what you're doing something like that. But whichever way, I think the fish did obviously come from Medbury Lane, and all the Medbury Lane ghosties came from us when Steve Wilkes and his dad had it. And I think it's done a 50 now as well, or several 50s, Medbury Lane. Lovely bit of water up there.
But that one's obviously done the best. What's that, like mid-60s now?
Mid-60s, yeah.
I think it's 65 age.
Certainly, I don't know whether Linear ever... I certainly know that the nunnery in West Stow had some big ghosties that were knocking on from to £50 that were originally our fish as well. So I think a ghostie's quite capable of growing to the same size. We've got a mirrored ghostie in Todber called the White Lady.
Yeah.
And that's 41.
Yeah.
Come on real steady, but she's a lovely fish. Everyone enjoys catching a
How do you
a good
define
ghostie.
these ghosties as well? Because that one's actually quite, it's a bit lighter in colour, isn't it? But it doesn't look too ornamental either, does it?
It looks more like a common, that one. You wouldn't have thought that it would have had too much ghost in it. If we were to breed ghosties or something like that, then you would breed a more colourful koi to get the ghost in the first place, where that's gone out. If you've got a pond full and they're breeding, if you've got just one or two ghosties in a pond full of fish and they breed naturally, guaranteed 30% will turn out with ghostie in them.
Right.
Because we've got a load of ghosties at the moment that we had some ghosties that were in our water where we take our fry from each year, and the huge percentage, for just like half a dozen ghosties in there, and they just like 30% of the fish turned out with ghosting in them. So they are quite prolific breeders, you know.
Sorry, Mark, can you just pull your mic up to your chin for us, please?
And they grow to quite good. They grow to. I mean, they obviously make good sizes as well.
They would certainly grow to £40 plus. I've never seen the 60, but I say the nunnery in West Stow had some big ghosties, which they originally got from John at Fisher's Pond as mid doubles, and they went on to I think £50 plus.
Do you know what we put it in, Broom at? Do you know what size that went in at?
Well, I don't, because I was told it was put in as a fry by somebody who just put a bucket full of fry in. And then you're telling me that you heard that somebody put it in as... It was already in there when you guys took it over.
Right. But it's a nice story anyway,
It's a lovely story, you know. It came, however, whether it came from a bucket full of fry like that went into Broome, or whether it went via somebody's garden pond to Broome. There's no doubt that's originally what happened to it and how it got there. But, of course, Broome was getting ottered before you guys took it over and fenced it, and you made it an unbelievable place. Like so many of the embryo waters, you know, that just can't believe what actually Danny and you guys have done for fishing throughout the country with these waters that you've created. And we're just very happy to be part of it, to be honest, Simon. You know,
it's an exciting chapter, isn't it?
It is an exciting
chapter. And I mean,
chapter.
Dan's got some, quite strict policies on bait and stuff like that as well. He's very specific about how he wants certain baits going in at certain times of the year as well. It's through experience and seeing how other lakes have progressed over the years, I guess.
It is. He takes a... He looks, he's a very, very clever man, and he looks before he leaps. And, we were absolutely over the moon when we got a phone call and said he would like to put some of our stock in his lakes. And it's snowballed, I mean, it really has been.
Actually, before we move on, Toby, if you've got South Ings on there, I just want to put a picture of this fish up before we start talking about some of your personal stuff, because this fish is...
Is this South Ings?
South Ings, and again, completely different to the stereotypical Simmons fish that you would normally expect to see. It's actually been named Ting Tong, by the way, recently.
Right, okay. You say things the one up north?
That's it, yeah.
The one up in...
Do you know what? I don't know exactly where that lake actually is, Mark, to be honest with you.
There's another dippy back one been.
Never saddleback, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at that fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, saddleback one looks a bit older, that one as well. I guess it's just water quality as well, the colour of the water on there.
The fish at the roach pit. The roach pit fish would be very similar to that, and they go dark and they've got that dip in the back.
Guy called Paul Monkman caught that fish. He went to Ian's funeral and he said the next fish that he was going to catch, he was going to name it Ting Tong. And
what a lovely fish to do.
I think Ian would be quite proud to see a fish like that named after him.
Yeah,
lovely fish.
Sure.
Anyway, shall we move on to your personal stuff, because you've got quite a colourful kind of personal background as well, haven't you, Mark?
I don't think so, Simon. I think they're perfectly
can
normal.
I'm going to say, can I jump in with a question? I've got quite a straight down the barrel one. Mark, what is it like to work with you or for you, however you'd like to take it? Open, and I want an honest answer.
We should ask this guy this.
Actually, that's better. Yeah, what is it like to work with Mark? Entertaining. Would you say that's a fair response, Mark?
Yeah, I would say entertaining, very fair. And I always look after the blokes that work for me.
Yeah, well, I've actually got a video site to back that up.
Right.
Do you want to have a quick look?
This could be quite... I'm not sure. Oh, God's sake. Why did you have to bring him up?
What the devil are you? I'm sure you're so happy to see my beautiful face, as you are every year when we start harvest season. The boys have asked me to send in some footage of the things that I've had to do to you after the savagery things that you've done to me the past few years, like making me net an empty pond, although I still managed to catch one. Worthy of a pay rise that was. Still managed to catch a fish out of an empty pond. Putting eggs into my dry suit before I go out into the pond. Firing rockets at me, which I may add nearly killed me. So bear this in mind when you guys are about to watch what I've had to do to Simo in retaliation to the awful things that he's done to me.
Right. That was Lee Mozza Morris, if anyone didn't know. One of your sort of part-time or now sacked employees, Mark.
Yeah, he's totally sacked. And he's going to be dead from me from now on for making this video, which obviously you guys are about to show.
Well, I was going to say, if that video was one thing, then what we're about to show might be something else.
Well, hang on a minute. Yeah, so some of these accusations, is there a bit of smoke without fire with this as well, Mark?
I love Mozza. I do. I think he's a lovely bloke, and you know, I do love him, but I can't work with him, you know. And the things that he's done in the past to me, we haven't done anything like that to him, Bean. It's one way, isn't it?
Is it really?
Yeah.
Would he say something else?
No, he would try to, but it is one way. You know, I mean, you know, to see me crash my truck into a wall. When he knows it's going to happen, but because he's taken a video of it, he's let it happen.
We haven't got that video, but tell us the story then.
One of the boys couldn't come into work, and you know, there's only so much that I can do, you know, after my hips and stuff like carrying bags of food. I'm not very good at, and I phoned Mozza. I said, Mozza, boys have let me down this week for some reason, or whatever. Could you give me a hand for a day? Yeah, okay, so I'll come and give you a hand for a day. So I'm a very bad driver. I should never have been allowed on the roads. Crashed a truck last week, as it happens. Done about $3,000 worth of damage to it. I expect you got the photo of that already from Mozza. Anyway, there's a narrow gap between where we take the trucks round into my yard at the back. There's about, what would it be, Bean, 6 inches either side?
Yeah, if you're lucky.
And I've took the truck round the back. It's round the back when Mozza arrives in the morning. So I've gone to take the truck out. And there's Mozza standing at the front of the drive, videoing me in the hope I crash the truck.
In the hope.
So in the hope, right? So I'm coming out, I'm going down the side of the wall like that. I said, "It's all right, Mozza. Yeah, you good. Keep coming." Crash. And Mozza's going, he's going to crash it. He's going to, all on video, he's going to crash it. Oh, my God, he's crashed it.
And he didn't tell you.
God, look at the damage you've done now, Simo. And, of course, I've got out the truck, had a look, all the wings scraped and bloody bent this and bent that. And he's absolutely peeing himself with delight all the time, videoing it, you know.
So why did you employ him in the first place?
Actually, Bartlett phoned me up and he said, or texted me and said, Simo, can you help out a buddy of mine? He hasn't got any work and we've just been on a stag do and he's telling me he doesn't know what he's going to do for some work. I don't know, it'd been 6 years ago. No one had heard of him then, thank God. Anyway, we took him on. And when he first came to us, he was a strong worker, you know, nice lad. And then he got gradually, no, it wasn't gradually, it was savagely worse by the day. You know, I mean, savage.
How long did this take?
A year?
Oh, right. It took a while then.
Well, no, but he only did so many days for us anyway. But no, he got worse. And he come to me one day. It took a winter. And actually, he'll tell you. He actually come out and say, if Mozza was here, he would say, "You made me the way I am." That's what he'll say. And that he had no reason to say that.
I've got sorry, what part did he have to play in this video? Because I've been dying for an explanation on what actually occurred here.
Right, okay.
Here we go. Let's look at. Oh no, not the dildo on the back of the truck.
The dildo on the back of a truck.
Yeah,
God blimey, Mark. Yeah.
Terrible.
How long was that on the back of the truck for?
Hour been? Bit more?
I bet all the other motorists on the road, they would have loved it, weren't they?
Peeping their horn and
you're on quite a busy road as well.
But
you would want to film the other motorists, wouldn't you, just to see their reaction?
The thing is, Mozza keeps coming up with these sex toys. And we're wondering wondering where he's getting them from, you know. I mean, we think that perhaps he's not doing the business in the bedroom, and his missus is wearing out all these sex toys.
He's got some.
And then when he get, you know, when they're worn out, he brings them to work. That's what we're thinking. We're a bit worried about him, you know.
Well, I've seen other videos actually that we're not going to put up actually of more sex toys actually, Mark. So have you now sacked him? Did I?
Yeah, I've sacked him.
Right. Okay. He's finished.
I can't.
Why did you sack him?
I can't live with him.
Right.
He's relentless.
Right.
From the time he turns up in the morning to the time he goes home, he's relentless. Yak. We bought him a dry suit. We put him in a pond to get rid of him. And then we have to put up with him when we get back to the farm and we're weighing the fish and putting the fish in various ponds. Yak. Every single time we had a harvest, he's got to pull a prank. You know. And the last one, stickers half the size of this table. Simo loves Mozza. You know, I mean, you go back to your truck and there it is, stuck on, ironed, no less, ironed on. Simo loves Mozza. It's not one. There's one on the bonnet. There's one on the roof. There's one on either door. There's two on the back of the truck. Where else be? Everywhere.
But do you know what, right? I watched you with him, right? And you effing blind at him and you wave your arms around and stuff. But I think you really enjoy that as well.
No, I don't. No, he's got too much. He's gone over the top.
He's gone over the top. Yeah, but now apparently is everybody on strike now? They're not.
There's talk of strike, but
they're striking this harvest tape.
They're striking at harvest because they want Mozza back.
Yeah,
to torment me.
Well, there you go. For the listeners and viewers, there should be a poll out.
Yeah,
should we have Mozza back?
No, I'm sure if there was a poll, it would be 99%. People would want Mozza back. Of course they do. Because he terrorises me.
Can we mention?
He absolutely terrorises me.
While we're on the subject of terrorising, I'm sorry, mate. I've got one more video that I'm just dying to show as well. This might be my favourite one.
Yeah, but hang on.
Oh, pink reels.
Right, okay. Can we just stop there a minute, Tobe?
Yeah.
Can we just mention Ringwood Tackle, because you've had a bit of banter backwards and forwards with Ringwood Tackle over the years.
Yeah.
And so what did you do to Ringwood Tackle before they'd done this to your reels?
They'd done 101 things to me before they did that to my reels.
Right. Okay.
But probably, if you want me to talk about the war, you can bring it up.
Well, let's mention the war first before we show the video.
Yeah. Okay.
How did it start?
Well, the war with Ringwood Tackle would have been started years ago, I guess, but it was always a bit of banter and a bit of fun. And then one bank holiday, the underling at Ringwood Tackle, Ash, decided he was going to put a 4-pound trout under the seat in my truck. It was baking up. It was August bank holiday. I took the truck home for the weekend, left it parked up for 4 days, and I've gone to get in it 4 days later, and I've opened the door, and you have never, ever in your life smelt anything like it. By then, it just turned to liquid. It was absolutely disgusting. It took me a whole day to try and get rid of the smell out of it, and I knew who'd done it. There's only one person who'd done it. So I decided to retaliate. So I knew someone who bred Chinese tree mice. So I thought, I wonder what Richie would think if I put some tree mice through his letterbox. So anyway, me and a lad who worked for me at the time, young Ash, we collected 25 of these tree mice. Now, they were all different colours. They were called Maltese is their actual name. They were black and white, blue and white, all kinds of different pied colours. So one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, we'd gone down to Ringwood Tackle and we got a pipe. And we got these Maltese in a cloth bag. And we put the pipe through the letterbox. And we're poking these mice down the pipe and into the shop. The night before we were going to do this, I happened to mention to one of Richie's buddies, if you like, Gripper. This turned out to be a right grass, really. They called Gripper the Snake, I call him now. Anyway, Gripper has phoned. He said, what are you doing about the trout then, Simmos? I said, I got something lined up for Richie. I said, I'm going to hit him with some livestock this week. Gripper, straight away, phoned Richie. Simmo's going to hit you with some livestock. And Richie said, well, I can't do anything about it. We'll have to just wait and see if he does it. He said he won't dare. Gripper said, well, I'm telling you now, Richie, he says he's going to hit you with some livestock. Anyway, Richie's come into work, seen a few bits of sawdust on the floor by the letterbox. He's obviously, thought, well, what's that sawdust doing there? Thinking the worst has happened now. He's gone around the counter, he's looked out in the shop, and all around the shop there's these little Maltese sitting there chewing on bags of boilies, rod bags, destroying the shop basically. Anyway, he's obviously very pissed off, really, really pissed off. So he's gone and bought he's got a couple of gallons of maggots, and he's gone and bought, what was it? Locusts. He's gone to the local pet shop and he's got a load of locusts. So he's gone to my house straight after this, the same day. Look, I'm going to get some up. I'm going to empty a gallon or a couple of gallons of maggots through his letterbox and let go all these locusts in the house. Going to destroy all the curtains and everything else. Anyway, he's got there and he's got it all with him and he sat outside the house, no one in. And he thought, I can't do it. And he's turned round and he's left it. Anyway, the first night he's gone and got a load of little nippers, the mice traps, and he's put them all around the shop. And then next six of these traps. The next day he's gone in, 6 of these mice in the traps. Oh, bloody hell! More than 1 or 2, like.
Yes.
He'd only seen 1 or 2 of them because they're pretty good at secretive work, these mice. Of course, I put it on Facebook, Simmos troops arrived in the night, attacked Ringwood Tackle and all this, Good wind-up. Everyone knew the story, what was going on. Anyway, after about 3 days of catching 6 mice a night, he started to get worried. He said, how many did you put in? Because he was hearing rumours of 100. And they were doing some serious damage by now. Anyway, I said, I put 25 in. To be truthful, Rich, 25. So he caught 24, and number 25 went missing. And no one really thought about number 25, but number 25 had secreted itself in a rod tube or a rod bag or something like that. And this copper bought it. And the copper's took it home and put it into a steel container where he lives, where all his fishing tackle is. Forgotten about it. Anyway, come the spring, he's opened it up to go and get his fishing tackle out, and these mice had just gone everywhere. Absolutely destroyed the place. They've eaten every single thing in there. White mice, black and white striped mice, every coloured mice. As it happens, number 20...
Would be a copper as well.
Yeah, it would be a copper. Oh, he was right pissed off with me. Anyway, number 25 was obviously up the duff. It had probably got up the duff in the tackle shop at the time. And it got in this poor old copper's steel container. And he was well upset. And I met him in the shop and he sort of come around making all threats that I've got to pay for his tackle. And I said, well, I'm sorry. You bought the item from Ringwood Tackle. It's nothing to do with me. Nothing ever happened of it. But he was pretty pissed off. So that's what happened to number 25. And that's really what started the war off. And since then... what have we got on here? What have we got on film since
now?
Then we've sent a few dead bodies in the post to him. put things down his toilet.
Hang on, so we got revenge here from
one revenge, one part of revenge. Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
You fucking twat.
What? Hey, what's wrong? Look at
What
that.
the fuck have you done to my fucking reel?
Excuse the
You
language.
fucking...
What's wrong with him?
You're winding me up, ain't you?
I thought you wanted
You
to come
haven't
up.
fucking painted my fucking reels pink, you prick!
But I've replaced it.
I don't give a fuck what you've done! I am not fucking happy!
Can I smooth?
He's almost laughing when he's saying that. But, oh dear, that was a nice colour. So they were pink. Your Shimano's are turned pink in colour.
Yeah. No, I was absolutely spitting feathers, but we got our own back for that. We actually decorated his shop for Christmas. We hung a load of what we called like ornaments outside it. We painted signs pink. We stole his sign, Ringwood Tackle Fresh Bait. Big sign, would have been 6 foot tall, being, and we stole it, and we blame Mozza.
See, Tope, Mozza is not completely to blame for all
this.
Yeah,
because what we actually said was, Mozza's nicked this sign because he knows Richie will blame us and take revenge, and we have had nothing to do with it. Mozza was in his van, he stole the sign. He was seen driving away from Ringwood Tackle with the sign. Anyway, we had the sign all the time. So we painted, we actually cut, we were fair. We painted the sign pink, we did. And where it had Ringwood Tackle and Bait, we left all that. And then we put across the middle and gay sex sauna. And it looked nice, Bean, didn't it? It did, it looked nice. And we also had some other boards with a few, let me say, we had got some Christmas decorations, looked like butt plugs, and we hung them all over the outside of the shop. And we did one or two other things, didn't we? We decorated the shop good and proper. And
so is this war continuing now then?
No, actually the war has got completely out of control, because after the reels, every time we went in there, we would buy something and we'd get home and there'd be a prick drawn on it. Every single thing, you know, and you know, they're known for it. I mean, there's an actual website, Abused by Ringwood Tackle, or Victims of Ringwood Tackle.
We need to check that one out.
You need to check it out, because they're relentless. Even James has had his Christchurch book with a great big knob drawn on it, you know. They're absolutely relentless. And
it's so immature, Mark, isn't it? Do you know another story that Mozza told me about you? Which I don't think you told me this, or did you? About the payment. You had £1,500 or something paid to you. Somebody took the payment and put the money in an envelope, and it was cashed at the bank by your wife.
Oh yes.
Can you
Ringwood Tackle? They cut up £1,500. They made it into a jigsaw puzzle, and literally a load of £50 notes. And literally, I just cut them up, mixed them all up, jumbled them all up, and just gave it to me as a bag of bits, 1,500 quid. And me and the wife spent about 5 hours sellotaping them together. And she said, how the hell am I going to explain going to the bank with this? I just said, well, it's easy. Just say that I've been hiding the money from you, and you found it, and you cut my half of it up or something. Anyway, no, we managed to get away with it. The bank took all the halves of the 50s and quarters of the 50s, and that was okay.
You could get arrested for that, couldn't you? Could you get charged with criminal damage or something?
Yeah, well, they'll never get arrested. You can't arrest them. They're
unarrestable. I found your website if you want to have a look.
Go on then.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, it's a Facebook page. Correctly titled, as you said.
Yeah. That's typical.
Yeah,
Ringwood
Tackle. We're looking at some of the pictures on there now. Yeah.
So, do you want to describe some of what we're seeing for our audio listeners?
Well,
well, I'll let Mark describe.
That's a ground sheet that they've done recently. Somebody's.
What have we got on that Spom, Mark?
Spom. Yeah, in gold, in a gold pen. They bought that gold pen especially to go on black. Apparently, they said. Yeah. But I mean, they just destroy people's equipment, you know. Look at that.
What does it say on there as well? It says a friendly group to showcase the magnificent male genital artwork created on our fishing tackle by that pair of pricks.
Yeah.
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 No,
Yeah, well,
I say it's
You know,
very creative
everything.
of them. Yeah, it's literally on
every
everything.
single person that goes in there gets it. Now, look at that. That's my bloody chicken. That's my chicken field.
so we're looking at a field there that's been cut out in the shape of it. Yeah.
Where my chickens are on my chicken farm, and we get someone up there, a lad, to do some strimming for us, and whether they paid him to do it or not, next minute he's gone round, he's cut a prick on the chicken field. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's relentless.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, there was eggs throwing that day, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I think one of the other best ones was
You can get very, very loud at times, Mark.
yeah,
can't you?
well, look,
Yeah. Chaos, absolute chaos working for you. I can't imagine. I mean, it takes a strong character to probably be able to stay working with you and your
I
gang.
don't. I'm not that bad, Bean, am I? It's not. It's everyone picking on me.
For everyone that can't
Every
see
time.
off camera, he's just slipped him 20 quid.
Yeah, he has. He has.
No, honestly, Moz was a lovely guy and I love him. And I would love to have him carry on working for me because he's a good worker. But it's just constant. You know, why would you bundle up and make something look like a dead body and throw it in a pond
I mean,
and say you can't?
awful.
You know, you can't. We drive up to the pond in the morning. Oh, Simmos, stop! We phone the police. There's a dead body in the pond. I mean, there's a dead body in the pond. And there he's got a sex doll, and he's dressed this sex doll, and he's wrapped it up in a carpet and put it in a pond. You know, and
We
then
did
the
have the
ducks.
video of that, but that was amongst other things
No,
as well.
the
so, which,
ducks was
Yeah, they
just
were-
dreadful. The ducks was horrible.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
there
you're
were a few
harvesting-
videos we had to cut from the show.
You know, the ducks were. The ducks
we
were
wanted
terrible.
to show the ducks right, but there's too much bad language. We would literally have to
Can you
cut.
imagine? Can you
It would be a
imagine? You
const-
get back to your truck, right? You're working in a pond all day, and you walk back to the truck, and you open your truck door. There's 20 ducks in there. I mean, they have crapped all over the truck. I mean, all over the truck. He's put them behind the seats. He's put them under the seats. He's even put the bloody things in the glove box. Do you know what I mean? You don't need that,
Oh,
do you?
no, you
And
don't.
I've absolutely done nothing to him
And
at all.
did you say as well? You took all the ducks out, but
That one escaped, right? One drake escaped. And by the time he'd been underneath the seat of the truck, so we went to get something out the seat when we got back to Turfcroft. And there was this poor lonely drake. So we let him go.
Oh, dear.
And he adopted us. So we called him Mozza. And he was around for what, nearly a year, Bean?
Well,
And we even got him
Mrs.
some. We
Mates.
even got him 2 lady friends, and he had baby mozzas.
That's quite a nice
you
story,
know.
actually, to
Yeah,
end that.
you
nice
know,
ending,
and-
wasn't it? Yeah, it could have been worse, couldn't it?
Could have been,
You
but
know,
we do
we-
have to say we couldn't show that video. We did have it, but that was one of the videos we couldn't put out, I'm afraid.
But you know, Mozza and Mozza and the ducks was dreadful. It really was dreadful.
Very,
and
very
the
funny.
amount of crap in the truck, you know. And he's only gone and videoed the whole thing. You
Was
know.
the truck ruined after that, or did you get it cleaned?
No, he just wiped it off and carried on. I
Wiped
mean,
it
we
off.
get covered in mud and shit every day.
No,
when
I
we
know,
get in the
but
truck. Of course
what
we
was
do.
it must have smelled awful.
Oh, it was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. You know, and Mozza goes on, why have I been sacked? What have I done? Do you know what I mean? He's locked me in a bloody chicken shed. He's watched me crash my truck. And then I think probably the worst thing was I said, Moz, can you come and do a video of the fish farming business? Oh, yeah, I'll do that, 300 quid. Really, Moz, you want to charge me 300 quid? You know,
Well, we've heard some brilliant stories there, Mark. But I guess a lot of people want to know where did this all begin? I think you've mentioned before that you started at Broadlands Lake. Is that where
I
your
did,
real fishery management
no,
started?
well, before then, I was a very, very keen angler, and right from a very early age. In fact, when I was born in Khartoum, in the Sudan, and you know, when I was 4, we were fishing with sticks and line in a local reservoir over there, the big dam. catching, I don't know what they would be. I would have thought that sort of in that climate they were probably tilapia, but they used to call them balti over there. And big Nile perch, my dad used to spin for big Nile perch over there. He had them up to about 120, and we used to love it. You know, we'd pick us up from school, you know, up until the time I was 6, and I can still remember it because that's how keen I was to go to this place fishing. And then that transgressed to fishing for wild brown trout in some little streams in Cornwall where my mother was born. And then we moved up to the Midlands, and we joined a local angler club, me and my dad, and got very keen on fishing up there. And my dad managed to find me a placement on a trout farm in up in Wales. And I went up there and did a year's practical experience. By God, it was cold up there, cold and bleak.
I bet it was, yeah.
Oh, gee, God. Living in a caravan on the trout farm. And luckily, after I'd done the year's practical, I got into Sparsholt, and it was the second ever course from Sparsholt.
What year was that then?
77.
Right.
And, everyone else was chasing alcohol and women and everything else. All I was doing was chasing wherever I could to get out at the weekends to become part of this wonderful, you know, all the river keepers and everything that was going on down there. We had a wonderful time at college.
So Sparshot's changed a little bit since I mean,
absolutely. Sparshot now is a waste of time in the fact that so many people are going to Sparshot to be trained, and they're coming out and they haven't got a hope of hell of getting a job in the industry because there's so few jobs in it. Yeah, you could become a bailiff in France, paid £100 a week and give them free food, or you could go Scotland salmon farming, or work in the aquarium business. But very few people that go to college, they're all carp anglers that expect to come out and get jobs in the industry, and it's not happening. Of the 14 people that were on my course, and that was it, there's hundreds now, different courses, but of the 14 people that were on the same course as me, most of us are still in the industry, either as gamekeepers, river keepers, or something like that. In fact, all my fish farm sites have come through people that I was at college with that now work on big estates where they've got lakes. So Charlie Patrick, I was at college with Charlie, and we've got Compton that we get off him. One of the sites which I sadly lost through otters back in, would have been about 2009, 2010, I had with Tiny, and through Charlie I got in with Gaspers. So, you know, we've kept, most of the lads from the course have been in touch somewhere along the line, and it was a good course. And it wasn't so much what we learnt on the course, it was the people you met. Now, I spent quite a lot of time with Bernard Aldridge at Broadlands while I was at college. I'd get up and go weed cutting with him at 5 o'clock in the morning and then go back to college. You know, I didn't care. I was just loving every second of what we learned. Every weekend, if the river keepers were out working, I was with them, learning. You know, I was just like a kid in a sweet shop. It was just something so special. And I already was told that I had the job at running Broadlands Lakes, which at the moment was a gravel pit that had just been finished. By building the M27, they took the gravel to build the motorway. And Bernard said to me, Mark, when a job comes up, it's yours. He said, but I can't tell you when it's coming up. So I went to the Lake District and took a job up there. And yeah, I was there nearly a year. Most important thing was I met the wife up there. And she, first time I took her out, she ran off with somebody else for the night. So I didn't think that was a very good start. But not ran off with him, but anyway,
got that out of the way early.
Got that out of the way. She started seeing him after this party we went to. And then she stopped seeing him and started seeing me. And then when I came down here and took the job at Broadlands running the lakes, she came down from the Lake District and joined me at Broadlands. And she's really had some bad times with me over the years. I haven't been good. You know, 99% of women would have gone long ago. But she really has had to put up with some crap. But to be honest, you know, things have been better on the Western Front in the latter years rather than the early years because, just drinking and generally behaving badly.
But I mean, you're still together. That's the
that's 44 years.
44 years.
Yeah.
What was so Broadlands, like you say, was was quite a new fishery then. Was it predominantly carp then, or
there was
general?
nothing in there.
Yeah.
I took it over and put the first fish in there, and there wasn't. We got some wild carp out of some gravel pits that were on the estate and put in there. But the first serious carp would have gone in the late 80s, and a chap called Tim Norman phoned me up. You know Tim Norman, the specialist angler, and he had these small carp around about 8 to 10 inches. He said, "Look, I've got 1,000 of these carp. I only want 50p each for them," which was a fantastic buy. Went to the agent and said, "Look, can we buy these carp?" "No, can't have any money." Anyway, I was talking to a lad called Adrian Waterhouse, and Adrian was doing some work for me. AD Waterhouse, he was doing some work for me. He used to cover my weekends now and again for me, so I'd have a day off. And AD said, "Oh, the club might be interested in some roach. Why don't we take the roach and pay Tim directly for the carp?" Which is roughly what we did. And we put these little carp in, and they were £0.5 like that. And they absolutely flew. The next year they were £4, and next year the first one, fish called Hoover, had made £10. We had every fish in a scrapbook as soon as they reached £10. And then we put some more carp in from one or two other places where we managed to get them from, and it turned into one of the first sort of really, if you like, commercial carp fisheries.
Definitely.
And AD Waterhouse was a big part of the lake in those days. I knew nothing about carp angling. This strange bloke used to come down, long, tall, skinny bloke used to come down and cut bits of jelly up and put on the hook. His favourite thing was mixing trout pellets and gelatine together, and he would put like a lump of jelly on the hook in the winter and catch these carp. And he was very much part of the early days about pushing me along the lines of the carp to get going. We used to
did the carp anglers sort of ascend on there quite quickly?
It did, and certainly in the late 80s, 88 I think it was, we bought a fish called Penny, which was
this one.
it was electrofish by Martin Moore out of Stratfield Say, and it must have been the first big carp money ever, and we paid £2,000 for it. And it just shows you how carp fishing's moved on.
What size is Penny?
It was £37 when it went in, and it was in the top 5 in the country at the time. And you think it wouldn't be in the top 10,000 now, probably, or something ridiculous. You think, hey, we're not talking about, what we're talking, 30 years ago.
But Penny was a well-known fish, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
You know. And the other thing with Broadlands is as well, didn't you bring in Any Method Trout Fishing on there as well?
We did, yeah. I mean, I really, it was as much to wind the Environment Agency up, who were my friends at the time. I mean, I had some lovely bailiffs, and we all worked together, and they helped me stock pike and keep Broadlands up together as a pike fishery. Great time with all of the bailiffs there, under Don Patterson, and there was Minky and Les Kirby and Roger, who's sadly dead now, one or two others, and we had some great times. They were a great bunch of lads, and I wouldn't even know what the fishery officer is for our area anymore. Got just no time for them whatsoever, but they were great times, great lads. And I used to say to them, I said, I reckon I could challenge this close season, And one day I was there fishing for pike in the close season, illegally, of course. And Minky's driven, one of the Environment Agency bailiffs, has driven along the motorway, and he's pulled up on the motorway, pointing his finger, "I've seen you, Simmos," sort of thing, And anyway, he didn't do anything bad. He didn't report it, but he give me a lecture about it. And I said, I reckon I could get round the close season. So I applied to go Any Method Trout Fishing. And Don Patterson had left, and a bloke as fish officer, a chap called Robin Crawshaw, had taken over. And we applied to dispensation to allow to fish for trout with bait in the coarse fish close season. And they never had any clue what the plan was. We put these trout in, we did it for 2 weeks, just to see what would happen, and we covered the cost of the trout the first 2 weeks in June before the season opened. And then the following year we opened on the 1st of April, Well, you should have seen it. Easter was absolutely rammed, and it was the same year that Penny went in. Everyone was carp fishing.
Okay, yeah.
And all the other fisheries in the area all applied for dispensation. The whole thing got out of hand. Everyone in the country was doing any method trout fishing, putting a few hundred trout in, opening up for fishing, even at night. Anyway, the Environment Agency got the hump with it, and they started restricting us to baits and that we couldn't fish at night and things like that. And it all came to a head one night. They raided Broadlands, and I think probably Lord Romsey probably wasn't too happy with me, because it was all over the front page of the papers. Lord Romsey's stately home raided by bailiffs for illegal fishing and all this. But it all came to a head, and you know, they restricted it and made it almost impossible to carry on. But we did carry on, and in 95 I left Broadlands. Lord Romsey sold it, and that was a very, very sad day, and it was a very, very sad and bad time in my life, because I treated it as my baby. You know,
I can imagine.
Put the first fish in there. I lived on the estate, although I was actually under Bernard Aldridge and later on a very good friend of mine, John Dennis. I never ever felt that they were my bosses. I was allowed to get on and do what I did, and I did what I had to make the lake what it was. And when they decided to sell it, it was a really hard time. And a chap who I knew very well, a chap called Steve Whitfield, and his dad bought it. And I got made redundant, 6 months to get out of the house.
You had a house on site and
Yeah,
everything.
we
It was
had a house
completely...
yeah, it was, living in the countryside.
Didn't you say as well that there was an opportunity that someone was going to try and buy the lake before this?
Literally, the Whitfields, the very week before the Whitfields were going to close the deal, I found a venture capitalist who found me, actually, who was going to buy the lake and lease it back to me. And right up to the hour when they told me I'd been made redundant and the Whitfields had bought it, you know, I thought there was a great chance it would have been bought and leased back to me. And although looking back on those times, I still love the place, I'm very glad what happened, because I would have never had the experiences in my life that I've had if I'd still been at Broadlands, because it was a 7-day-a-week, you know, job. It you know.
You saw a lot of stuff going on there. Obviously, you weren't into carp fishing at the time, but you said about solid PVA bag fishing and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, that's right. It got invented there, really. And the first solid PVA bags that were about were made by Fgeco. And one of our anglers happened to be looking at some old stock in Home Stores Tackle. I said, what's those then? Oh, they're dissolving bags. What are they for then? Well, you fill them with stuff and you chuck it on your hook and it dissolves. And everyone started looking at this chap called Mark Murrell, and he was catching fish in the winter when no one else was. And we found out what he was doing, and I found Bob Baker at Richworth, who was a very good friend and sponsored the Carp syndicate that I had down there. And what a group of lads that was. And I still know a lot of them now, you know, Wayne and the Joneses and people like that, you know, great characters, you know.
But an important, you know, period in your life. But you said you had some personal problems, and what I guess that didn't help things too much, Mark.
Yeah, I was drinking far too much. When I was at Broadlands, it was horrific. You know, I mean, the trouble is at any fishery where people come and they're there, they want to have a couple of days away from the wife, they're going to have a few beers, and you get persuaded to having 1 or 2 beers, and then it becomes 5 or 6 beers. And it went on for nearly 18 months, the sale of the lake. And it was a very bad time, you know. And I got to the stage where I'd get to work in the morning at 7 o'clock and open the cupboard and have a couple of cans of Stella. And that went on up until Broadlands got sold. And then I went through a worse period, not so much with drink, but with depression, when we left Broadlands and we went and lived on a housing estate briefly. And it was like living hell. It was like, for me, living in a rabbit hut.
God, I can imagine.
Luckily, we'd managed to buy a house, which we were leasing out. So we told the people that were leasing it they had to leave, gave them 6 months' notice. So when they left, we moved up there. And luckily, 6 months later, I managed to move out of there to where we are now. And once that happened, I started to put my shit together, really. But it was a bad period.
How did you decide to stop drinking and just implement that? We've had a few people on the show that have talked about this before. Was it just you wake up one day and think, there's a realization that if you carry on like this, you're going to lose your marriage,
I'm not going to make
worse.
it. Going to lose my marriage, and just couldn't do it anymore. Once I was out the atmosphere of Broadlands, it was easier for me to do because I didn't go and look at a cupboard of beer every morning. I'm living in the house, on a housing estate, away from it, not going to the pub or anything like that. I just sort of stopped. I'm not saying I stopped, because when I started going to Tobago, I had some fearful days drinking over there, but I never felt hooked on it, and I never started drinking first thing in the morning. Richard Rigg would tackle, he's got some horrendous videos. We used to go trout fishing twice a year on a stretch of river. Used to buy the whole beat for the day. Horrendous, absolutely horrendous. They sent out a calendar one year. You could ever get a copy of it, of this calendar, and it's me in the river, me rolling round on the bank, them carrying me away in a wheelbarrow. Horrendous.
Seems like fun at the time.
Huh?
Seems like fun at the time.
It was fun at the time, but then the wife has to put up with all that when you go home like it. And I never really realised how much it was affecting her, really, until the latter years,
You start to understand how she might feel a little bit.
You do understand.
Yeah.
And then, after that period, I got the business going. I was with John at Fisher's Pond. Everything was good. John was growing all these fish. I was selling all these fish. I started making some fairly serious money. And, I disappeared to Tobago, and, I just went and loved it, and, bought a little boat, 16-footer, for a couple of lads that I met over there, and then we bought a 32-foot boat, and, I had that from 2001 up to 2010. And then I hit Skid Row again, but it wasn't with a drink, unfortunately, it was with otters.
Yeah.
And when you think you built a business up, and at that time I was spending 20 weeks a year in the Caribbean running a charter boat business, which was absolutely fantastic. Meeting different people, fishing. Fishing was good in those years in Tobago, the 2000s. It was just a fantastic time. I loved it. Still think of those days, and they'll never come back. And to be honest, I probably think that I shouldn't have gone back to Tobago. I should have looked for someone new. But after the otter saga, it took me another 5 or 6 years to recover, and that came as a really bad time. It wasn't so much the drinking or anything like that. It was just to feel robbed.
So the otters. So when did you first?
2006, we first saw them.
What were the early signs?
Well, just one fish. In 2006, from one of the ponds at Dorchester, I was convinced that a fox, the fish had been swimming around in the margins and a fox had grabbed hold of it. But Martin Moore had said, that's an otter, Simmo, because Martin Moore used to help with all my netting. And he said, that's an otter. Never even heard of an otter around here. All the years I was on the test, never saw an otter. All the years I was at Broadlands, never saw an otter. None of the outside, Fisher's Pond, none of us had ever seen an otter. 1999, they released 99 pairs of otters around the countryside. And those otters, they will deny it to this day. I wished I'd had some money. In 2010, when I'd been wiped out, I wished I'd had some money. Because I am convinced to this day I could have took the Environment Agency and Natural England to court and would have won the case, because there was no consultation. All the river keepers, the fishery owners, the wildlife people, the RSPB, people like that, not one person was consulted by what was Natural England now. What was it in those days? Something else, wasn't it?
I was going to say to you, so how quickly did it accelerate from seeing the first otters in 2006 to really, really impacting your business?
5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
5 years. But
What,
there
a gradual.
No, it was quite explosive, really, because not only did you have these pairs of otters introduced into some really 100% prime habitat. You know, they put them on the test, they put them on the Itchin, they put them on the Avon, they put them on the Star. They put them in prime spots where there wasn't any otters and hadn't been any otters for 25 years. That coincided with the stopping of otter hunting in 1975. So then the otters...
was it like chemicals that they were using that were killing otters in the first place? So once they stopped using that...
No, I don't think it was chemicals. No, I think that the otters were hunted to near extinction by literally otter hounds. And when they stopped hunting them in 75, in my opinion, the otters started spreading up from the southwest, spreading over from Wales and coming down from Scotland. There was still 3 main strongholds of otters in the country: southwest, Wales and Scotland. And I think the otters they deliberately didn't put them where there was some in Norfolk. They didn't put those otters into places where there'd been any otters for 25 years. So they put them into completely new territories that hadn't seen otters for perhaps 50 years. And those coinciding with the moving up and the ban on hunting, everything else, all came together to create a problem. And it's the biggest problem that fishing in this country will ever face. It's absolutely nothing that's worse than
we need some new reforms or something.
Yeah, but
regulations.
You know, I mean, they're cuddly little creatures, aren't they? No one's gonna, no one will stand up. Look at the angling trust, sit on the fence. Pag, I had so much hope for Pag. You know, I really did, that those guys were going to go in there and shake everyone up and get the cormorants taken off the protected list and get us to be able to take out nuisance otters.
So what's going wrong with this then? Angling Trust and Prague?
They're all sitting on the fence. They don't want to upset. They see if we as anglers want to destroy what they have reintroduced to stop them wiping out our fisheries, they're frightened that people will take it in bad light. Oh, we couldn't be seen to do that. You know, it upset the greenies and, you know.
So you see,
Jesus Christ, the only person that's actually got on top of the problem to some extent has been Danny, because he's given people otter fencing to places that would never have been able to afford it, you know, and he's created fisheries and syndicates and now day tickets, Norton Disney. Created fisheries for people to fish behind a fence where they're protected. But there's so many fisheries out there, Simon, that's not allowed to put fences up. Country estates, big lakes. We've got a road that consists of the dam of one of our lakes. How can you put a fence up on a road? Do you know what I mean? And the rivers, okay, fence the lakes, as many lakes as what you can fence. I'm all for it. What about the rivers? What about the decline of the Hampshire Avon, the Dorset Stour? Now they're seeing it, you know, it's tragic.
So what does it take?
It takes for otters to be allowed to be controlled in a manner that is perhaps acceptable to people. I'm not talking about killing every otter. I'm talking about otters that are affecting your way of life, otters that are affecting your income, otters that are affecting the future of your fishery. You should be able to control them. It's never going to happen in my lifetime.
How much money do you think you've lost in otter damage over the years?
I lost £250,000 in 5 years.
Wow. And
it was a terrible, terrible time in my life. And now, literally, I would say that probably Beanie's like an Indian scout, you know, like they used to put out to track people. Unbelievable. You know, he lives and breathes the things. And we know where they're coming from, and we could see where they're coming from. And we've got a large amount of electric fencing And when we see one turn up, Beanie's like, otter shit down the back today, or there's a slide or some scales on the bank, and we'll see and we'll follow where they're coming from. And we'll put electric fencing up, very often sheep netting, if not sheep netting, green post with 3 strands of wire, and we'll move it around. We'll funnel them into it. We'll put a wing out that way and a wing out that way, coming into a little hole where you could see that he's regularly running through, a set of reeds or something like that. And then he comes up to it, gets a shock. And they remember that. I mean, not so much the present dog, but our old dog, Rat, she got once shot by that electric fence. She refused to get out of the truck on that field of chickens after that ever again. Just that one bolt. One of our cats went out the back where the chickens are, got a bolt, won't even go out the back. And that electric shock sticks in their mind. And I think really, I would say we would lose, in a bad year, how many fish would we lose to otters, Bean? On 50 acres of water, perhaps 30? Yeah, 30 fish a year, and I can live with that, Simon. I can live with that. But nothing's fenced. The only thing we do is when we see them, we move fences around to deter them, to get an electric shock, and then we find they don't come back. Now, other people say they got electric fences, and they've actually seen them charging electric fences at night and seen sparks fly as they've gone through them because the gain is worth the pain. But I wouldn't say we've ever...
So you've still got a constant, there's a constant threat around your fisheries with otters.
The time.
It's just all about keeping them.
Lost a 33 pounder.
What did you say about female, the female otter,
I think that I would think
the mother.
I would think that female otters are very much territorial, more than males, and females would stay around the area that they're born or not stray too far, whereas the males probably stray.
Right. So the areas where there are more concentrations of females are likely to be more hot spots.
Yeah. We took over one of John's sites that he had an otter problem on. Last year that he was there, he had 700 or 1,400 carp killed or maimed. And that was a mother and cubs that were literally, the mother was chewing the fins off the carp to make it easy for the cubs to catch them. That's the worst kind of damage.
Yeah.
And I had damage like that on the 2 sites. Over the years, the 2 sites at Melbury and at Poulton's Park, both of those sites ended up having families on them.
So that's telltale signs that there's a family there. When you see tail damage, first of all, that's trying to disable the fish a little bit.
Well, not, you will get adults that will catch them by the tail, but the worst damage is when you see not one fin but several fins chewed. I mean, at Longley, going back a decade or more, they actually had an otter and its family used to sit on a bank amongst the anglers, and the mother got used to hearing a buzzer go off, and she'd look up when a buzzer went off, and she'd literally go and take the fish off the anglers and bring it to the bank to the cubs. Yeah. I mean, who would have ever thought a wild creature would behave like that? The trouble is they're not wild creatures anymore, Simon.
We've seen that, haven't we?
We've seen it, and people saying they're not reintroducing them. Where are all these nature parks? Where are these otter sanctuaries and places? What are they doing with all the otters that they're rearing? They all want otters, baby otters, because they look cute. What are they doing with them when they don't look cute and they can no longer keep them together because they fight and kill each other? Well, what are they doing with them? Exactly. What's the otter trust? We've got a otter and owl sanctuary at Ringwood. Take most of the orphaned otters in this country. They're supposed to take them back to the river of origin where they come from. Do you think they're taking them back when they got Hampshire, Avon, Dorset, Stour, places like that? They're Dorset? Of course they're not. I mean, there's no future for the rivers while the problem's going on.
Yeah,
it's never going to get better. Not in my lifetime, and probably in your lifetime. We're all going to be fishing behind fences.
So, it's so sad, isn't it? I mean,
it is. You know, I mean, I'm hanging on by a thread, really, to the fact that Beanie knows so much about them now, because he's had to, that, you know, he smells them, you know, and spends that much time. We probably know more about them than the Otter Trust, you know, but by moving those fences around, we managed to, well, look at P. The last year he was at Resident, she lost 700 fish, right? We moved electric fences around. The following year, we lost 30. And how many fish did we lose down that site last year? 3, Bean? Only 2 or 3.
Yeah,
but the worst ever gutsing thing ever was this week, when I lost a 33 on one of our sites, and I was absolutely distraught. You know, there's 2,500 half-pound fish in a pond. There's another 20 fish between 17 and 30 in a pond, and it goes and kills the biggest one at 33.
Would you always find that, or I mean,
no?
It's a bit of a lottery.
It's a bit of a lottery, I would say. There's no.
God,
I don't think, you know, but 2,000.
What's a 30?
£2,000.
2,000 quid's worth of. God, blimey.
And the last year that I was at Poulton's Park, I put 28 fish back over £27 to sell them at 30s, and 30s in those days were more than what they are now. They were £3,000 each. I never harvested one of them. Every one was killed. In fact, the last one, it's a quite horrendous photo, and if you look back, you probably find it, of the fish with all of its stomach and all of its throat ripped out, and it's still alive. You got a photograph of Wayne Little at Milton Abbas holding
I've
it
seen those pictures,
from Poulton's, and everyone said it's a fake photo. That fish couldn't be alive. But that was the last 30 from Poulton's, and that year it had been getting worse and worse and worse. But that last year at Poulton's was a gutser. And the same year I had to get out of there, I had to get out of Dorchester. You know, they were my 2 biggest and best sites.
So on a more optimistic note, away from otters anyway, Mark, coming into harvest season now.
Yep. And it's going to be great without Mozza. And hopefully the fish have grown. It's been if they've done as well as what we would have expected to do, for them to have done, they'd have caught up in September, because you've had some lovely weather recently, and we've been out, me and Beanie's been out around the ponds feeding them all summer, and you know, they're looking good, and we're very hopeful. We've got a couple of ponds, so we've done some health checks already on, and that's
so how many ponds have you got then?
We got 3 big lakes that we're still farming. We would harvest about £45,000 in weighted carp from. Everything's sold, either sold or it'll go back to grow on for this year.
How far in advance do people put their orders in normally then?
Probably 12 months in advance.
Right.
Yeah. Certainly the big fish. They've been sold out for a long time. But
how close is your estimations about what you're going to find? I think you were saying that a pound in weight can make
50 grand's worth of difference to the business, you know. So it is stressful. The last thing you want is someone annoying you while that's going on. But no, I think it'll be an average season. It's not going to be a good season, but we'll know more this week. We're out sample netting 2 of the 8 sites on Thursday this week, so we're going to go out and sample and get an idea of what the fish have done, and then we could tell the customers what they can be expecting, really.
So you bring them from those lakes to a holding
facility,
and then you
sort them, grade them, and then they're into separate ponds, different size fish, and then on a Monday we go into the ponds where the different size fish are and tank everyone's order up into a tank. So we'd move them out of a holding pond into tanks. So we got 8 tanks on the farm, 8 tanks, and we'll put everyone's fish in different tanks.
So are people all ordering fish in size, or just
mostly in size, yeah.
So you
C3, C4, C5, C6s,
right,
or bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got a good idea. How close are you normally to an estimation then each year? Is he good, Beanie? Is he quite accurate? Yeah.
I would say pretty accurate, but yeah, it's stressful.
It's just.
It is stressful.
And how long does this last for?
3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. The stressful part is not being able to get away from it and go on holiday.
Mm.
Normally, I'd abandon Beanie in January, and he wouldn't see me again till September.
You'd be off to Tobago, would you?
Tobago and Thailand, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really hurt. The last year before the shutdown, I had 6 holidays between January and September, you know, and that's
not
what I
bad
love.
way to
You know,
live,
I got
is
the
it?
boat in Tobago, and you know, I love 1 or 2 places in Thailand.
Didn't you get arrested somewhere?
I got arrested in Thailand, Trinidad, for they sold me a ticket to get back to England last March before last, when the vaccine was going on, and of course Moz has heard about it, so he's phoned me up, and then he's videoed the phone call, and then he's added he's recorded the photo, the phone call, then he's added these little bits like he does to it, you know, photograph of me behind bars and things like that.
Sorry, they sold your airline ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why
So
did you get arrested?
Because I got abusive.
Oh, right.
Can you
okay.
imagine me
Now
getting
it-
abusive? Can you imagine me
I thought
getting
he'd stitched
abusive,
you up
Simon?
or something.
No, just abusive.
Got abusive and arrested.
Abusive behaviour.
Right, okay.
And they
this,
said, if you carry on, Mr. Simmons, we're going to get somebody to come and take you away.
So how long were you locked up for?
An hour, until I found someone in Tobago who bribed someone to let me go. as they do, you know.
And I thought, was that you were on the way back then because
Yeah,
of
trying to
lockdown?
get back to England because of the lockdown. Yeah,
Right.
I was actually I'd booked to go to Tobago for 6 weeks, and I was there 5 days.
That was a last happy memory of a holiday. Then,
Yeah, it
wasn't
was. Yeah, I haven't
In
seen
a
the
prison
boat.
cell.
I haven't seen the boat since, and I don't think the missus or Beanie were too glad to get me back.
Well, look.
Well, the only good thing is I've lost a couple of stone in weight because Beanie's been terrorising me, working hard all this summer.
Yeah. Well, so there is a positive.
There is
to
a
it.
positive side, Simon. Yeah, and Moz has gone. That's a big positive side.
He'll be
for me.
back.
He won't be.
We're
back.
going to put a wager on that, aren't we? He'll be back. Mark, it's been a great podcast. I know that people are going to find this interesting and different at the same time. And you're a great character. You know, I could listen to your stories all day.
Well, there we go. You're always welcome to have me back.
Well, you're always
We
welcome to
definitely
come
will.
back.
Don't worry, Mark.
Okay.
Okay, Mark. Thanks very much
You're
for
more
coming
than
on the
welcome.
show.
mate.
You're more than
Thanks.
welcome. Cheers.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.